Hi, I'm Chris, and welcome to episode 7 of the Crochet Cryss podcast. My sister Lisa and I are the owners of a knit sheep yarn store in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and this is where I come to talk about my crochet life. So, a couple of just housekeeping things. As you've noticed, I've been kind of all over the place with which day I post my podcast on, and I really want to take care of that. And without going into all the behind the scenes of it, I'm going to be posting on Fridays. That is the new plan. At this moment, I can't say that I'll be posting at a specific time every Friday. The goal will be to get it up sometime in the morning, but we'll see how that goes. But I'm making the declarative statement right now that I will be posting new episodes every Friday. The other thing is that I'm trying out this new microphone. It's just a little cheap microphone I got from Amazon. I actually have a very nice microphone. It's a Blue Snowball microphone, if you're familiar with those. But I feel like they work best when you're sitting directly in front of them and speaking right into it. And I'm not set up to do that because I'm not filming at like a table or a desk. So that's why, the sound would be better if I leaned forward and worse if I sat back. So I'm trying this out. So please do comment below about the sound levels and let me know if this is better or if this is something that I still need to work on. So this will probably be a shorter episode. I only have a couple of things to talk about. And one is the elephant in the room, the fact that I'm not sitting here wearing my finished sweater. So let's talk about what's going on with the sweater. I'm still working on it, haven't quit. It will be finished. Everything's all good as far as that goes. But the main issue is that I am a whole entire nincompoop. You all have probably noticed, and if you go back and look at episodes where I hold up the sweater, specifically the front of the sweater, you may have noticed that my neckline was ginormous. I will do a full post-mortem of how I made the sweater and all the mistakes I made along the way because they are numerous. But the thing to know is that I didn't measure anything. I even made a gauge swatch, but I only made a gauge swatch to see what my stitch pattern would look like in this yarn. I was very freewheeling as far as, determining my stitch count. So while I think the width of the sweater is okay, mostly by accident, the sweater came out longer than I intended it to, and we'll get to the problem with that in a minute. But it also had like this big gaping neckline. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, I think that's really too big for what I had intended to do, which was just a simple ribbed neckline. But if it is too big, I can just take up a lot of that and make a cowl neck and, cover up a lot of those flaws. And once I decided that, I kind of got like obsessed with the idea. All of a sudden, it wasn't just like a fix. It was like, that's the perfect solution. I will make this a cowl neck because I think it'll just really look nice as part of this design. Because remember, I'm still designing this as I go. I am entirely making this up. So that's what I'm doing. I'm making a cowl neck, which is not, an entire fix. You'll see it better next week. Hopefully next week it'll actually be finished. But even if it's not, I will put it on and show it to you. I'm not going to put it on today because I don't want to take off my little cute bow scarf. But you can see it's cowling a bit. It looks better on a neck than it does on an arm, but you'll have to trust me on that. But I'm getting this cowl neck. I'm loving how it's coming out. I've actually done the cowl neck in half double crochets because I just wanted a slightly taller stitch so my neck would move a little faster. And I'm actually just going to do a few more inches because I really wanted to slouch a lot. However, when I put it on, you can still tell that my neckline was too big. And you can see, let's see if I can, you see all of that? Here you can see some of it when I'm wearing the sweater. Now, it doesn't bother me. I had to fix the huge neckline. And it really doesn't, I don't think it detracts from the sweater in any way. In fact, I've decided I quite like that. Now, I'm not going to front. This is a mistake. This is an accident. This is not what I intended this sweater to look like. So I've got some of this. It's hard to do this backwards because I'm doing a mirror image. But some of this is visible in the front when I'm wearing it. But I think it's kind of cute. The way it plays is kind of as just a different texture, because working in the round, you're only seeing one side of these stitches. Because I did a few rows of single crochet and then a few rows of double crochet to try to just take up that neck opening a lot faster. And so in this area up here, kind of inside where the neckline of this top is, again, this mirror image is driving me nuts. Well, you get the idea. You're seeing some of those stitches that I put in to try to shrink down my neckline. But I kind of like it. I never would have thought to do that. I would never have thought to make a deliberately wide neckline and then add stitches in that would be visible as you wear the sweater. However, I'm kind of fascinated with, round yoke sweaters, and I'm planning to make like a version of that in crochet. Not color work. I don't do tapestry or any kind of fair isle crochet, because that gives you hella ends to weave in, and that is my least favorite task in crocheting, weaving in those ends. But maybe just using like a variegated yarn up top or some sort of self-patterning yarn, and then a solid yarn for the body of the sweater. However, I think this could be like a fun variant on that, where you make, like I said, a very deliberately wide neckline, and then you take some of that up with these stitches and you get this round effect here. And what I would do if I were to do something like this again is actually make those stitches, all of the, my take up my space stitches plus my cowl neck, in a high contrast color, so that all the stitches that you're seeing here will look like they're meant to be seen, because they will be. So I'm going to consider this a happy accident, because I feel like I discovered something that I really like, albeit unintentionally. But I'm just going to work with it. I'm going to have a make it work designer moment with this sweater, but I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind and actually, like I said, try to replicate that, on purpose, for another sweater. So that's my neckline. I had 3 tasks that I had to finish. I had to do my neckline, I had to do my sleeves, and I have to seam it. Now, as you can see, I've already seamed the top of the shoulder seam, and I'm going to stitch on the top of my sleeves when I have sleeves, and then I will seam the side and the underarm all in one piece. That's why these sides aren't seamed yet. I feel like that'll be a slightly easier way to put sleeves on, and I've never done it before, so it's just something I want to try. So I mentioned that my sweater came out longer than I intended. So it comes down like, to my hip, and it looks nice. I'm not at all disappointed with the appearance of the sweater. However, that ate up a lot of yarn. So, mentioned that I'm a nincompoop. I ran out of yarn. I'm using the 4th skein to make, the mother of all cowl necks, because I'm still going. And that is eating up most of my 4th skein and, taking up some of that neck opening. I ran out of yarn. So I did not have enough yarn to do my sleeves. And this is hand-dyed yarn. It's not like, I'm going to be able to get the same dye lot. So I freaked out. My first response was like, oh my God, I'm doomed. Just forget it. I never want to crochet again. Like, what was I thinking? I can't make a sweater. I'm just going to go to bed and pretend this never happened. Got over that in a few minutes. And I go online to the Machete Shop website, and They don't have it. They don't have this color on this base. They had Red Dragon on their Suri Suri base, which was delicious, but that's not what I was there for. And they did not have Red Dragon on the simple sock base. So now I'm like a little distraught, trying to pull myself together, and ice maker, sorry. I just Google, machete shop Red Dragon simple sock, and I find literally the first search result that came up that wasn't machete shop. I go to that website and I order the yarn. So I was able to get 2 additional skeins. And I told myself, even if they're completely different from the body of the sweater, the important thing is that they will be the same as each other. And I can just pretend that was meant to be the case. I will, honestly, what I got, I don't think is too bad as far as not looking the same. And you can't really tell in the skein. I'll have to crochet with it and see what it looks like, but I don't think that's a problem. But even if it were a problem, let me tell you how hard I'd be going with it. I have this tank top that I really like, a store-bought tank top that I wore the other day. It's nothing special, but I think it's like the cutest thing ever. And it's like kind of a neon yellowish color, and I don't have like anything else in my wardrobe that color, so it's like really fun for me to wear. And it has a tiny little hole in it. And I pretend I don't know it has that hole every time I put it on. And every once in a while, some busybody will come up to me in the street and say, "Oh, excuse me, miss, did you know there's a hole in your shirt?" And I go, "Oh, there is? Where?" And I let them point it out to me. And I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much. Oh, man, I'm so mad. I love this shirt, but I guess I'll have to get rid of it." I ain't getting rid of that damn shirt. I love it. And I wear it with the hole. So that's just to let you know my denial game is hella strong. And even if my sleeves are a completely different color from the body of the sweater, I am just going to rock all the way with it. So that was the other problem with my sweater, my too big neckline, and it probably has a few problems, but my too big neckline and no yarn for the sleeves. But I'm still making a sweater, damn it. I wish I wasn't still making the same sweater. I'm like so ready to move on from this. But I mean to wear this, so I'm going to finish it. And by the way, when I got this yarn, and shout out to the Knitting Bee in Portland, Oregon. I guess they're a yarn store. Thank you so much. They had exactly 2 skeins left. So, gonna have to be very circumspect. I may end up making 3/4 length sleeves just to be on the safe side. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But never give up, never surrender. I am going to finish this sweater. So I talked about making the mitered square tunic as my next make. And I think I'm just going to put that on pause, even though it pains me to do so, because I was so excited to have figured out my mitered square. But I think I'm just going to put it on pause just because I really want to wear my crochet, and a lot of what I have is, more fall, winter gear. And so that got me thinking that I really should be focusing on making some summer things. Every time I talk about the sweaters, I'm like, I don't know why I'm making all these sweaters in the summer. But then I thought, well, I guess I don't have to make sweaters in the summer. I could maybe wait till closer to fall and make a few summer tops. So that's what I'm going to be working on now. So mitered square, I don't know if any of you were as excited to see it come to fruition as I absolutely am, but it's going to have to get sidelined for just a bit. I have a few things planned, and hopefully because they won't be sweaters, I'll go through them a little bit faster, because I really do make stuff. I swear, I promise, it's a thing. I don't spend my whole life making one thing. So I'm going to make some summer tops and put mitered square on pause. The only other thing, so this is going to be a shorter episode. The only other thing I wanted to talk to you all about is I was wondering how many of you happen to watch the Handmade Business Summit online. So if you haven't heard about it, it was a series of like free workshops that were being broadcast. So there's a woman in Canada. I hadn't heard of her before, but I believe her name is Brittany Lynch, and she hosted this. And what she did was, over the course of 2 days, she just interviewed a lot of different makers, a lot specifically crochet makers, about how they are operating their businesses and what they've been doing to grow their businesses. And I think most, if not all of them, are people who make their living full time from crochet. Or I think a couple of them might have been crochet and knitting. The way they did it was, I have like no notes here, so forgive me if I keep saying but the way they did it was, you could watch it for free live, but after the fact, if you wanted to watch it again, if you want to be able to go back and watch it whenever you want, you'd have to pay. It really wasn't a lot. Like, if you paid for the recordings the same day you registered, it was only $27, and then the price kept going up. So I decided, being cheap, that I would watch it live. However, it was broadcast on Saturday, June 8th and Sunday, June 9th. And if you don't know, Saturday, June 8th was Worldwide Knit in Public Day. And so I'm at the store. We actually had a really good turnout for that. I was really excited. Everyone seemed to have a good time. We sat some chairs outside. It was hot. So like we would like alternate between sitting outside and roasting and going inside, getting a little bit of AC and then coming back out. And then as the sun moved a little bit, it created a little bit of shade and it wasn't as bad. But and then we have a taco restaurant right next door to us, and I have to say, sitting outside and crocheting while smelling tacos cooking was really nice. It was like an unintended benefit. But I decided I'm gonna try to watch this thing live with like more than a dozen people at the store. And so I'm sitting and crocheting and I'm watching on my phone, and I have like one earbud in my ear, trying to listen to what people are saying and intermittently participating in conversation. So details will be a little bit sketchy because especially on Saturday and then Sunday we had sit and stitch, those kind of same situations, just shorter period of time. I may have missed a few things, but I can give you the gist. Like I said, it was basically various people. Jess from Make and Do Crew was one of them. Tony Lipsy from TL Yarn Crafts. I can't remember all the names, but it was maybe like a dozen people over the course of 2 days. Some I'd heard of, some I hadn't, who were talking about developing and growing their handmade businesses. And it was pretty interesting. I would say there wasn't a lot of depth because each person only spoke for maybe an hour, but there was a lot of breadth covered. So basically, there are people who are making money from crochet and knitting in a lot of different ways. So yes, there are people who sell patterns, but there were also people who do things like tech editing or selling finished items. So there were a lot of different variations, and there are people who do online tutorials, which is its own specific thing. So there were a lot of different ways that people are making money from crochet, and of course a lot of people are doing a mix of various things. Like I think one of the people interviewed was the woman from Bella Coco, whose name I believe is Sarah Jane, and she just started a crochet box called the Crochet Society, a subscription box. So people were talking about all the various ways of making money from their handmade passion. And I thought that alone was interesting, and that alone made it worth watching, because you can easily get stuck in one mode and think the way to make money doing this is either selling finished items or selling patterns. And I don't desire to do either one of those things. And yes, my sister and I have our yarn store and we are growing our business, but first of all, when you start a new business, you are obviously, like my mom always says, you are supporting it until it can support you. But I'm also interested in developing my own business that focuses specifically on crochet, because that's my passion. I don't knit, and just having the yarn store is always going to be skewed heavily towards knitters. And that's fine. That's what that space is for whatever reason, and that's fine. But that's not what I do. So as I'm seeking to eventually carve out my own space within, the yarn world, it was really good to see a lot of different people talking about all the permutations of making money from something handmade. And they also had people who talked about very specific things like time management, or I think Tony Lipsy talked about specifically how she uses Instagram. There was someone else who spoke about how she uses Facebook. So ultimately, would I have paid for it? Just because I'm cheap, I don't know that I would have. I don't know that it presented me with a whole lot of new information, but I would say it stirred the imagination. So I feel like if what you really need is that prod, just the ability to see all of these different people talking about what they do, then yes, it would be worthwhile. As far as like looking at those videos and then having like the specific list of action items that you can employ tomorrow, there was not that much of that, but that's fine. I think it was still a good conversation. Like I said, what I gleaned from it, because I was only listening with one ear. But I'm just curious how many of you might have seen this or participated in it. I don't know if you can buy the videos if you didn't register for the live event. I don't know. I found out about it because I think each person who was involved was sending out things to their own mailing list. So I found out about it from an email from Make and Do Crew. Maybe ask, one of the people who was involved. So Make and Do Crew, Tony Lipsy, Sarah Jane, Bella Coco, if you can, or probably Brittany Lynch would be the best one. I think her website is idealme.com. Ask if you can still buy it even if you didn't watch it live. But I don't know how much it's going to cost now. But it was interesting, and I'm hoping that, eventually more people will do things like that, really talk about the business side of things, but also speaking, one, specifically to crocheters, and two, speaking about things other than selling patterns. Because even if I do decide to sell patterns down the road, that is something really far in the offing. And I don't want that to be like the lane that I get stuck in, because that's really not the kind of work that I want to do. I have no idea what I actually will end up doing, but I know I'm not going to make like the mainstay of my business selling patterns. So like I said, it was just great hearing from people who are doing all kinds of things in the crochet space. So let me know if you took a look at that or if you'd heard about it. And if you watched it, let me know what you think. I think that's all I had to talk about. So thanks for watching and stay stitching.